Do you ever worry that your child is evil incarnate? Well, it's true. Is this a metal thing?
Yes. Little taste.
David, what is this?
It's pretty thick.
Great.
I have to kill a lot of people. Just tell me what you want me to fuck.
I have big tits and a tiny vagina.
Oil me up, Daddy.
I can't believe that Bryce prefers big tits. Mistletoe alert. This is backcountry.
This guy was a real jerk.
How long can Hugo be pregnant?
Chomp, 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 chomp.
Oh, she's such a dick, David.
Okay, everybody, put on your corpse handling gloves.
Ew.
Hoodie Picasso. Horror.
Hello, and welcome to Horror Movie Talk, the least cursed podcast in the world. Your hosts each week are me, Dr. Bryce Hanson. I hold a PhD in spookology, and across from me, across the state, sits Professor David Day.
You know, you say it's the least cursed, but I think it depends on the day.
Yeah, this is full disclosure, take 3, day 2 of the Omen episode. Maybe at some future date we'll release the outtakes for the failed first attempt. And to be honest, I'm still like pretty gun shy about this right now, doing video. But so far, it's okay.
It hit you like a bag of bricks, dude. It was,
Yeah.
You were not having a good day yesterday. But I mean, the podcast wasn't having a good day yesterday. We have a lot of interesting stuff that we're going to talk about on the afterpod. That's for damn fucking sure.
Yeah.
And you know what? Actually, I think we should definitely release the cursed episode from yesterday, all 13 to 20 minutes of it on Patreon.
Yeah. So anyways, this is the ironic, because the Omen, the production is one of these movies that's supposedly cursed.
That's right.
So we'll talk a little bit about that on the episode today. Again, we're reviewing The Omen, the original from 1976. Before we get into it, just want to give you a couple pointers to enhance your enjoyment of Horror Movie Talk. Go to horrormovietalk.com and find links to all of our social media, as well as our Patreon and our YouTube channel. Like all the areas that you're going to want to engage with Horror Movie Talk, you can find links from there. Really want to plug our YouTube channel because we are doing video now.
Yeah.
So check us out there. We need to increase our engagement and subscribers there so we can start doing cool things. We post new episodes to all platforms every Wednesday. If you want to give us a call, leave us a voicemail at 682-253-4468. And if you really want to support the show, which we really need in these hard times,
dude, yeah,
go to our Patreon at patreon.com/horrormovietalk, and you can join us there. I want to thank our new patrons, specifically Andrew M., Joseph Q., Ariana L., Laura D., and Robert the F.
You know what? I'm sitting here, I'm looking at the poster for The Omen, and it has the tagline on it, as posters do. It says, "You have been warned. If something frightening happens to you today, think about it. It may be the Omen." So maybe it was the Omen yesterday.
Wow.
But you know what? We got a lot of things to be thankful for, Bryce. Namely, I mean, if you're on the video, you can see our hairlines, which we have pretty decent hairlines for dudes in our approaching our 40s.
Yeah, approaching.
All right.
I am actually 40, so I'm in the 40s, and I got this luscious head of hair.
It is
Thanks,
beautiful.
Dad.
Yeah, I mean,
I love
I'm looking
you,
at
Dad.
that thing,
Thank
and
you
I'm
so
just
much.
trying to think about what it looks like down below, Just a fucking forest.
Real
Yeah,
straight.
hot and steamy down there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um,
How's your dick forest look?
pretty rough right now. Manscaped isn't a sponsor anymore, so fuck that.
Yeah, but
I'm on.
I will say the product worked.
I'm on a trimming fast until
Sabbatical.
Manscaped comes back as a sponsor. Going all natural.
That's right.
Anyways,
But I will say that their product worked well.
yeah, it did.
Yeah.
If you're new to the show, we give a brief synopsis and review at the start before we get into spoilers. We'll give a score for the movie. We score on a scale of 1 to 10. And then you'll get a nice warning when spoilers are going to happen, so you can bounce if you haven't seen the movie and come back at a later point. But in the spoiler section, we talk not only about spoilers and what happens in the movie, but what we liked and hated about it. Later on, we've got a special bit for the Omen that I'm going to call Cursed or Not Cursed. And David wrote in Blurst or Not Blurst. And just from what we experienced yesterday, there's a lot of irony in having that. I'd also like to introduce on this episode the addition of the sad life cam.
Oh, we
So
have the sad life cam.
We can go from like, yeah, this is,
Things are okay.
Things are okay to sad
To-
life.
To your parents are going to be just fine, kids. Everything is okay.
So
Ooh,
yeah,
wow.
I've got the GoPro just set on top of my computer with absolute minimal care. I'll probably be getting like an actual stand for it and use that going forward. But
yeah, I was supposed to be recording with the GoPro today. This is to our producer, I suppose. Fart.
mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. The GoPro is recovering from yesterday being cursed. It lost all battery life. I don't know how to recharge it. It won't take a charge. So here we are, stuck with my shitty old webcam again. This is probably a bagged episode, so it'll be coming out a little later than when we record.
I assume this will come out sometime in October.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, so we watched The Omen. I know this is my at least second time watching it. Have you seen it before, David?
Yeah, this is also my second time watching it. I watched it after we had started Horror Movie Talk. So within the past 4 years, I watched it for the first time.
Okay. And so we watched it again, and it was ominous. So The Omen can be found on HBO Max right now, and wherever else you can rent movies, I'm sure. Gregory Peck plays Robert Thorne, a wealthy and politically influential man who, unbeknownst to his wife, adopts a baby boy to replace his son that was born but died on the same day. The child, named Damien, when he becomes a toddler, begins to be surrounded by strange and untimely deaths. When his father starts investigating the circumstances of Damien's birth, he finds out that his mom is a real bitch and his father...
I mean, this guy was a real jerk.
So The Omen is a tentpole horror movie. It's mentioned on a lot of lists, but especially as it makes up the unofficial trilogy of parenting horror with Rosemary's Baby and The Exorcist. It preys upon every parent's worst fear of, is my toddler evil incarnate? And this movie answers, maybe. The real horror in the film isn't anything that Damien does, it's what he represents for the future, and the powers that seek to protect him. The focus isn't so much on gaslighting like Rosemary's Baby. The Omen focuses on outside forces that set themselves against and for the Thorne family. The Omen in the title refers to the prophecy of the Antichrist, and in particular a poem that an ominous priest recites to Mr. Thorne, which is quoted as being from revelations, but is actually created whole cloth by the screenwriter.
Oh.
While there aren't a lot of scares, quote unquote, for all those people that say it's not even scary, this is a taut and well paced thriller with plenty of dread and ominousness. It's a well constructed and acted movie with a couple set pieces that really stick in your mind. I did wish that they did a little more with little Damien, gave him a little more to do. He really is a blank slate in the film. It's intentional, uh, but he barely has any lines. And as far as characterization, he seems indifferent to death, and he has shifty eyes, and that's pretty much what you got to go off of.
Mm.
So it would have been nice to create more of a dilemma for the ending by showing him as a more normal boy who loved his parents, because what the director was going for, he specifically asked for all like supernatural elements to be removed from the script so that you're wondering whether this is all
Mm.
in Gregory Peck's mind, which really underlines the horror of the end of the film. And so
Do
like
you,
I wish
do
they
you
would have
think they
done a
achieved
little
that?
more. Huh?
Do you think they achieved that? Did at any point were you unsure as to whether or not this was in Gregory Peck's mind or in reality?
Um not really. I would say that they did sell his struggle with it, that there's a
Yeah.
lot of showing him saying
Yeah.
what if I'm wrong, which is effective, and you wouldn't be able to do that if there was like the more obvious supernatural elements, everything you could still write off as being coincidental.
Yeah. You
um
could well, I don't know. I don't know about that. I think that was a thought at the start of the script, but once they definitely by the time they got it on the editing room floor, it was like, ah, fuck that. This is a straight ahead blockbuster. We're doing it. Like, there's
yeah,
no question. Like,
yeah, I mean, I we can talk about more about it in the spoiler section, but
yeah.
I think they could have gone harder in that direction, definitely. I really like the movie. It But it doesn't quite achieve the emotional heights of Rosemary's Baby or The Exorcist, so I
Yeah.
deduct 1 point. I think it's a great movie. It stands on its own very well, and it's beloved for good reason. It's a really well constructed, well acted movie, and it is known outside of the circles of just horror, of the horror genre. So it meets the qualifications of
Yeah.
transcending genre boundaries. But for me, I wasn't as engaged as my other favorite movies in this subgenre of parenting horror, and I give it a 9 out of 10.
I think that's a fair score. I mean, so this is a movie with a ton of iconic imagery, like and moments. And for that, I mean, that's huge. You know, I mean, some of the scenes in this are just unforgettable and really well done. And will stick in your head. You know, the the graveyard in Transylvania or Greece scene is so like that's just in my head all the time, rent free. The there's a couple deaths that really stick with you and are just so alarming and disturbing and out of left field, that you just can't help but yeah, be like, oh wow, like that was really well done. Um,
A couple cool elements too. Like I don't know if this is the first example of this, but just the element of the photography of the photographer like taking pictures
mhm.
of people that stuff happens to him later in the film, and there's these like photograph artifacts that show up,
Yeah.
very much like you would see in one of these ghost hunters
Hmm.
type shows, where it's just this added element of what is going on, and that kind of sticks with you. There's a couple elements like that that are really good.
Yeah, all that being said, it is a super 70s feeling movie. Like this little kid suffers from that kids from the 70s vibe where it just looks like he's from the 70s, you know? I don't agree with one of the things that you said in your review, which is that Damien seems indifferent to death. To me, he seems extremely concerned about death, or at least bodily harm, throughout, because he seeks shelter from those who would do him harm, in like dogs and in his nannies and stuff who he glamours or something. Like, there seem to be all these denzians of hell, like willing to protect Damien. Um,
Well, no, I
and
meant he was indifferent to the death happening around him, not necessarily
ah,
like his own death.
Gotcha.
Like,
Now we've ironed it out. So yes, no, that is definitely true.
right.
Um, so, but yeah, to me, it doesn't. It does drag on a little bit. It suffers a little bit in terms of pacing. Is not quite as a gallop where I'd like to be. But I mean, it's iconic in a lot of different ways. And I mean, I will watch this again. Um, and it's been redone. And I mean, fucking Gregory Peck, like shit, or Gregory Pecker, as I like to call him, because that
Ayo.
big old swinging dick. And this spawned, so like I said, a remake. It spawned a couple of sequels. I think there's,
I think there's 3 sequels,
yeah, there's Omen
and then
2
the remake.
named Damien.
Mhm.
Yeah, the remake, which was I think 2006. So I mean, it wasn't an insubstantial movie. It just not quite as. I can't quite put my finger on why I would give it an 8, but I will give it an 8 because that's how I feel.
It is a little long. Like
It
I
is.
would assume that you were not enthusiastic that it was close to 2 hours. It could be cut down a little. I just think like enough happens in the plot where it feels like, yeah, this makes sense. It doesn't
Yeah.
feel like it's staying in one place for too long in that 2 hours.
Yeah, no, that's about right, I think. And I mean, did I mention Gregory Peck? I mean, kind of a
Mhm.
no, that is, maybe you'll be able to help me with this one. This was a question. Carrie and I were watching this, and I said, "Wasn't Gregory Peck gay?" And she's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Boy, wouldn't it be weird to live in a time where that just was not cool for other people to know that, you know?" And I was like,
Uh-huh.
"Yeah. When did people know Gregory Peck was gay? Because it's like common knowledge now, but like, like the people who hung out with, like Audrey Hepburn had to know because he wasn't like hitting on her and shit. I assume, like, like every fucking lead, I'm
I mean,
sure.
that's one of the, like, the really interesting aspects of time back then, where it's like there there's a certain aspect of people being completely blind to it, where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, that um who's the guy that Michael Douglas played? Liberace. Like, oh, that
Mm,
Liberace, he's such a silly guy. Look at him with the
really puts
Segans.
on a show.
Yeah. Like, I hope he finds a nice young girl to settle down with someday, though.
It's hard to
Um,
pick, when you got your pick of the letter, it's hard to choose.
there's that aspect, and then there's also the aspect of people definitely had like gay uncles or cousins or brothers and sisters, and they knew what that looked like. And I'm sure there was people that that worked close with them that you assume, but you don't know for sure. And
Yeah.
I think that assumption can either go to the way of like, well, I just won't talk about it or bring it up because that'll make them feel uncomfortable, and it's none of my business to like assuming they're gay and thinking that's a bad thing and maybe spreading rumors about them. So I mean, it was must have been a real rough time to live.
Yeah, I'm just so curious to know when he came out, or maybe I'm getting all of this wrong, but I don't know. It's questions that we have. If you know the answer to any of these questions, call us at 682-253-4468.
Yeah, and if you want the answer to no commercials in this mid-roll or getting early access to episodes as soon as we release them, go join our Patreon.
Do that.
Patreon is where you can find early access to episodes. Also, we release all our episodes without ads after a certain point. We didn't offer that early on, so some of the early episodes still have the mid-roll. And as well as bonus exclusive content. And I don't know when this is going to come out, but I'm going to assume we're still having a little bit of financial trouble.
Oh yeah, we are in big financial straits, perhaps. But like we can't start. We're not sure about it for sure, but things could be very bad for Horror Movie Talk.
So we might be currently or in the near future having like a real special special on Patreon to get an economic boost to Horror Movie Talk.
Let's just say this.
We've
IRS
never
hates us.
Yeah. We've never like broken even personally on Horror Movie Talk.
No.
And we pay people now, but we do have a huge bill from the IRS. So
for nothing, apparently for fucking nothing.
Right. So maybe. Join us there. Also, if you want to give us more money, go to our shop at horrormovietalk.com/shop. There's a lot of designs from our resident artist, Dustin Goebel. You can find him on Instagram at dgoebel00. That's at DGOEBEL00. And if you want to, again, leave us a voicemail, call 682-253-4468. Thanks again. Let's get into spoilers. Spoilers.
Wow, that was cool, Bryce.
So, yeah, this was. I'm having deja vu because we went through some of this. We've almost gotten to the point where we haven't recorded anything about it yet. And we haven't cut out at all. So
I'm getting parched.
Still hopeful. You know what it might have been? It might have been your GoPro, David, because you were using the GoPro in the last one. I'm just going to blame that.
It was not. We cut that out. We cut it out. It wasn't my GoPro. You sent me the GoPro.
It's our GoPro.
Okay, well, it might have been our GoPro, but it wasn't our GoPro.
It's the sad life cam.
Dude, things are sad over there in the sad life cam. What's the story? How does it get so different?
It's just the angle and the lighting. It's like, hey, it's Modern Family. Roseanne.
Roseanne does look like it does look like Roseanne lighting. Dude, all warm and fucking wet. Weird.
Okay,
Roseanne.
so this film is Richard Donner's first film. He's the director. And Richard
Donner the Donner Party?
No, of Richard Donner. He's, I wonder if he is connected.
Oh,
we never know. But this is the first actual feature film. He'd done a lot of TV work before. Worked on just random kind of like procedural shows, as well as I think he did some Twilight Zone episodes. But this was his first foray into film, and it was a huge success. I don't think anyone expected it to be as successful as it was. Richard Donner, if you don't know, directed the first Superman, the 70s/80s
Yeah.
Superman movies.
Yeah.
1 and 2. I think unofficially on 2 because they like fired him when he was almost done and released like a studio cut. And also Goonies, directed the Goonies and the first 2 Lethal Weapons, which is kind of weird too. So pretty varied, not necessarily like a strong style, just very capable. And I compared him. All my jokes are going to feel stale because I've already told him, but compared him, he's like the 70s version of Ron Howard. It's like, yeah, you do associate him with like 1 or 2 films, but like you don't know what most of the things that he's done unless you go up on IMDb.
Right. Yeah.
Like people don't necessarily have a favorite Ron Howard film, or if they have a favorite film of his, they don't think of Ron Howard as being a reason.
Right. Right. Yeah, the only Ron Howard film that I can like pick out of my brain as being a Ron Howard film is Apollo 13. And then all the rest of them, like I'm looking through his stuff and I'm like, okay, all right, I guess, it's like, those are good movies.
Yeah. He's capable. There's nothing wrong with Ron Howard. He's great.
No.
It's just,
Yeah. Ron Howard is the Toyota Camry of directors. It'll do for a long time and it'll do great.
right. You can call him in. He can be your hitman of a director.
Holy shit. He directed Cocoon
Uh-huh.
and Splash? No.
He did Splash? I thought that was
Wait, that can't be right. Wait.
director. Oh, he's
and Splash. And Splash.
huh.
Both of us had the exact same feeling of like, no.
He directed Willow
Shit.
and Backdraft and Far and Away.
Dude,
See,
Far
all
and
these
Away
movies
was
are
a fucking great movie, dude.
Yeah. A lot of people hate Far and Away just because of Tom Cruise's accent. I'm like, what the fuck?
Far and Away has if you're not familiar, Far and Away is a movie about I think it's a true story about a little girl and her dad who flew with some geese. What am I thinking of?
No, Far and Away is about Irish couple going to stake a claim. Yeah. You're way off.
What am I thinking of?
Way off. I have no idea.
The girl from True Blood. Well, okay, now I gotta look this
Anna
up.
Paquin.
Yeah, Anna Paquin. Anna Paquin. She was in
so far off from Far and Away. It's
impressive.
Just
just fucking stick with me because it's about the same year. Fly Away Home.
Fly Away Home. There we go.
Yeah.
It has the word away in it, so.
Yeah, fly, far. It's all the same. It's the same movie, basically.
Yeah, so I mean, all these movies are like, they're blockbuster movies, but no one like thinks that the director is a genius about them necessarily.
Right.
But they're high quality. I mean, I went back and watched the original Superman a couple of years ago.
Ew.
After just getting my ass reamed with, years and years of Marvel.
Yeah.
And it was surprisingly fresh. Like it still stood the test of time as a superhero movie. Like it's a really good telling of Superman.
Isn't it interesting how hard it was to do superhero movies without special effects? Like it really required green screens to be the entire medium of the entire movie in order to accomplish superhero movies.
Right. And they even like the special effects in Superman, which were kind of limited. It's like, I'll put you on a table and make you look like you're flying. Yeah. Like that was like, whoa, they made Superman.
He's fucking flying, bro. How'd they make him fly? Is he flying in real life? It's a movie, dum-dum.
So Yeah, I mean, but like until you could. So, for example, for me, when I was growing up and actually reading like Spider-Man comics, it wasn't possible to do a Spider-Man movie. Like
No.
you just don't. You want to see the Spider-Man movies that they made up to that point? It was like laughable, and
Yeah.
it's not even necessarily limited by budget; it's just limited by technology. It's like
All
you
of
got
it
a guy
involved
swinging on a rope. Like
swinging on a
that's
rope. Sometimes, a lot of times, it was like a set on the floor made to look like a building like this that a grown man would crawl over like
uh-huh,
that.
right.
And
Like the
yeah,
Batman
very
TV show when they're like crawling up the wall with a rope,
yeah, yeah,
and it's just them crawling up the floor.
very
Um.
dumb.
Anyways, enough about Richard Donner. Um. So it starts off with Gregory Peck's character in a cab driving to the hospital, and he gets a call.
Mhm.
Wait, is that right?
Um, yeah, I
How
think
did he get
so.
it? I
No,
guess it was a car phone. I didn't even think about that. That would have been pretty technologically advanced back then. Um, but he gets a call, and they basically say, "Hey, bad news! Your son died." And he's like, "Oh shit!" And then he gets to the hospital, and they're
oh
like, "Hey,
shit.
uh,
Oh dang.
the shucks, I didn't want that to happen."
Ah,
And then
fucking kid.
they get to the hospital, and there's this like priest that's like, "Hey, you just lost your son, but guess what? One day only special. We have
Weird
another baby
coincidence.
here
Weird
that lost
coincidence.
its mother.
It looks the
Like,
same. Isn't that fucking
we,
weird?
yeah,
Look at this
let's
dead
just."
one. And he jiggles the dead one around. He's like, look at it. Look at this thing.
And he he
And now
puts
look at this live one. Eh.
he puts the dead baby underneath a cup, and then the live baby underneath a cup, and starts doing a
Hey, yeah, yeah,
gag on the
yeah.
table. He's like, "You
Yeah, yeah.
keep your eye on the dead baby."
Figure out.
Switcheroo. It's like no one will ever know. So he's basically saying like, "Hey, take this live baby, switch it out. We don't won't bother telling your wife because women, am I right?
They don't got to
It's
know.
the 70s." So I mean, the first thing that jumps out at me is like, they didn't tell the mother this at all, and he had
I
time
know.
to drive and like have a conversation in the lobby before the mother was even like told that. How long did they take the baby away from the mom back in the 70s?
Oh, it was
Like they make
fucking.
it such a huge point now to be like, they pop it out of your vagina and immediately like slide it like a slip and slide up to your chest and be like, hold it on
Yeah,
your skin, because that's the
well, I
most
mean,
important thing you could possibly do.
it's kind of interesting that you're bringing this up because, like, they basically take the baby away from her until he's 10. You know, they're like, raise a child. Fucking, we got some fucking maids over here, bro. Like, you're not, ew, don't touch him. God, get him
Right.
off of you. No wonder he turns
Right.
into a fucking devil. Like, you know, it's like, I don't, first of all, the first couple minutes of after birth, not real important. That's shit. That's not bonding time. That's just like baby death / trade in your baby for a new baby kind of thing. And then, and by the way, don't let her know. Her tits might reject the baby. You don't want that. If she knows, like, they come up with the most insane, like, thought for like, don't tell her. You don't want to bother her. But fucking bother her. She's adopting the Antichrist.
Yeah. So whoa. Spoilers. Yeah, so they take the baby, it's unbeknownst to her, and then it skips forward to toddlerhood, and we're shown him, little Damien, having a birthday party.
Mhm.
And it's revealed, I can't remember before or after, that Gregory Peck's character is named the ambassador to Great Britain. So
It was before that. He had just been named ambassador, and then they're having the
Right.
birthday party at his new place. By the way, at this birthday party, little kid birthday party, 4-year-old, 3-year-old, something
Uh-huh.
like that. Some of this shit was so fucking cool looking at this birthday. So first of all, like, they are fucking strapped. They got so
Right.
much cash. They got the cool cash. They got the coolest fucking birthday party. They got a carousel. They got an old school bounce house without the house. It's just bounce, no house. It's like, did you see these? They're like big toothpaste tubes of air. Did you
I
see
didn't
these?
notice. No.
Oh, it was fucking awesome. It was just like sewn together blow ups tubes. So it was just the tubes, no house around it. And there was just a bunch of kids like just like all over the place, falling off of those things, just like springing off. And then they had like this fucking
They had like a
backyard roller
carousel.
coaster. Yeah, they had a real carousel, but then they also had like a backyard roller coaster, which is just like a cart on caster wheels on like a wooden track. And they put this kid on it and they like push him down and he's like, ah! And he's like holding on for dear life. And you could really see the terror in this actual child's face. Like, oh God, I'm going to fucking die. It's great. This is an awesome party.
Yeah. And then the nanny is shown like on the roof. Was it the roof? Yeah, it was the roof.
Yeah.
Calling out to Damien.
She gets a glint in her eye about midway through the party, and then she makes her way up to the roof.
Oh, well, no, she looks at the dog. That's what it was. And the dog, you could tell it was evil because it's got real shifty eyes.
Yeah.
There was a knowing glance between the dog and the nanny. And then the nanny reappears on top of that, 2-story house and calls out to Damien, says, "It's all for you." And then she hangs herself in front of, like 50 children.
Yeah.
Down below.
It really goes hard in these dramatic death scenes. Like, it shows up, it's pretty crazy. With like, imagine seeing a woman hanged by the neck in a 3-year-old birthday party. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah. Little bit of trivia. I believe that was Jack Palance's daughter.
Who's Jack?
You know who Jack Palance is? Did you ever see City Slickers?
Yeah.
He was curly. Dude? Yeah, the old cowboy guy. Oh. He's kind of famous in old westerns and stuff.
Yeah. That was his daughter?
That was
So goes the
it was his daughter, Holly Palance. And she actually looks pretty similar to Jack Palance. You can see the resemblance in it if you look. So it goes really hard, and then you're like, what the hell just happened? And then some time goes by. There's a lot of time that passes between each of these moments. And nothing happens very quick, but eventually a priest shows up to Mr. Thorne and gives him like a stern warning about that
about an omen.
About an omen, that bad stuff is happening around his son. I don't think he explains everything at this point, but basically tells him that he needs to get his family away from this kid.
Yeah. He it's kind of unfortunate that he decides to talk in riddles,
Right. And poems.
Yeah. It's
and then
you could be a little bit more forthcoming with this super important info.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. At this point, he shows up at Thorne's office and like starts like being really weird, and then he gets taken out of the office, and the priest like yells out, "His mother was a jack," and then gets cut off. He's gonna say his mother was a jackal.
What does that mean?
Like, well, apparently it's kind of a saying from the Middle East. His mother was a jackal, which is basically his mother was a bitch, or equivalent to that. Later we find out that it was literally Damien's mother was a real bitch, like a female dog, because when they dig up the grave, there's a dog inside. There's the skeleton of a dog, which is weird that they go through the effort of burying the dog in a human grave, but spared no expense for the devils.
Well, it was a dog in one grave, in the first grave, and then it was his child in the second grave.
Yeah, his child with like an obvious head trauma injury.
Which is another one of these moments that it's like goes hard, that
Yeah.
don't sleep on that. That's this dude's real son, like dead in a grave. It's like, oh
Mhm.
shit. It's so
Yeah.
dark.
Um, and then this new nanny appears, and they're like, "Oh, it seems like a good pick, honey." And they're like, "I thought you picked her." It's like, "No." So this lady just appears and is like, "I'm gonna be the nanny,"
Fucking
and they're like, "Oh, she
Mary
seems nice."
Poppins. Mary
Yeah.
Poppins over here just kind of
This this new nanny, what about how many minutes would she last in your house if the circumstances in the movie were happening to you? I mean, assuming that you would be able to or would want a nanny for your
I
kids.
I don't know. I think you have a better answer ready.
Well, I mean, I think the fact that it's like you didn't call her and I didn't call her, and this is just a random person appearing at her house and asking to see Damien alone. It's like, oh, get the fuck out of our house. Get the fuck out.
Yeah, but
And
she's practically perfect in every way.
yeah, and then pretty quickly she's like telling him like, "Yeah, I don't think we need to take your kid to church." It's like, excuse me?
What, bitch?
What did you just say to me? Do you like your life? Do you like
Oh.
getting a paycheck? Because you better get my son ready for church, which
Dude,
they kind
seeing
of do. And then also she like brings in basically an untrained like a what was it? It wasn't a Doberman,
no, they were
a Rottweiler into the
Rottweilers.
house, and they're like, huh, "Well, that kooky Mrs. Blaylock. Oh well, she sure does take care of our son real good." And then move on. It's
See,
like, what the fuck? What parents would
but
be like, okay, well, I guess our our nanny is opinionated, but she's raising our kids, so what do we know?
see, this is a different households. If somebody came into Bryce's house and was like, "No more church," that family be up in arms. They'd be like, "What the fuck is it about?" You come in the day household, and it's like, "Yeah, no, what? We weren't going to church to begin with. What the fuck? Can you like?" And then it's like, "Oh well, you're raising the Antichrist." It's like, well, yeah, it's like that's what we've been doing. Like, hello.
Yeah, like it's pretty bold for her to be like, yeah, no, we're just not gonna do that right now, and you're just gonna do what I say because that's how this works now.
Yeah.
Um, but
Carrie'd
she's
be
a
like,
real influence of like protecting Damien, but also like that un. I'm sure this is like an unspoken fear or an actual fear of people that actually have nannies, but of just like, oh, someone else is raising my kid. Who knows what they're teaching them? Like,
yeah.
who knows what like the ethics and morals and like their worldview that they're putting on my kid. But oh well, I don't want to raise him.
Eh, yeah.
And in this circumstance, like, uh, I don't think that the mother. I've never seen her like working. Does she have a job?
Well, her job is raising the child, bro,
I mean, it's.
or not raising the child.
I'm sure everyone would love as much help as they can get and would pay for it, but it's pretty bold to be a stay-at-home mom and be like, "Not my job. I'm just going to be
Well,
over here."
like this is, I mean, be careful. There's a lot of moms, stay-at-home moms who listen to podcasts. You fucking misogynist. So
Well, I know, like if they're stay at home, do they also have a nanny? Is my question. That's pretty privileged.
I bet a good 40% of them do.
Oh,
Do you think
Okay.
what do you think this percentage is on that? Really is not 40%. What do you think it really is?
I mean, like 2% maybe.
Dude, out here, dude, there's fucking nannies everywhere. Everywhere. Like there are just it's like nanny central. So my whole perspective on that shit has changed. I'm like, maybe nannies are super normal. They're not.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like how many people are rich, you know?
Nah,
I guess I mean, it's just that's the prerequisite, right?
that's true. Yeah.
Um anyways, so it's this whole situation and Thorne, what's his name? Robert Thorne keeps getting these warnings and the priest shows up again. Um Oh, we skipped over like yeah, the nanny refuses to get Damien ready for church, and then when they take Damien to church anyways, he like freaks out at the side of the church. And I
This was a
I
pretty upsetting scene for me. Like,
yeah, it was really upsetting. And I read in the trivia section that this was basically one of the reasons why this little boy got cast. The boy is really well cast. Like they don't give him much to do, but what he does do, he's very effective. And
yeah,
Richard Donner, this is like one of the things where you could point to him be like, that guy knows what he's doing in terms of being a director.
yeah.
But they're casting this, and the instruction that they gave to the kids that were auditioning was at some point Richard Donner would be like, just come at me. Just like just give me your worst, come at me. And this kid was
He said,
like,
"Just come at me, bro."
yeah, just like went for it. And it was like scratching him and like kicking him in the balls and stuff and like throw him off. And he's like, that's the kid. That's the evil kid. And brings him in. And apparently he's kind of a little terror on the set, which the lady playing Mrs. Edith said. Um, and then also like he'd get him to get reactions just by like goading him. But yeah, the
Pinching
little
him.
kid seemed very authentic.
You know, it helps to cast the devil if you want somebody to play the devil. And I really can't think of anybody more satanic than like a fucking 4-year-old boy. Like, ooh,
It is
terror.
impressive. My son, he's turning 5 in a couple days. He is the most impressive like sociopath 1 second, and then also just the most loving, cuddly kid the next. It's a crazy age to have a
Turns on
little
a
boy.
dime.
Yeah,
Wow,
because they're
Colin's gonna
smart
be
enough to
5?
know exactly what they're doing, but also just still so cute.
He's gonna be
You know when they turn
5?
it on. Yeah, he's gonna be 5 in 1, 2, 3 days.
That's crazy. Oh yeah, the
Yeah.
21st of September.
Um. So
Let's get to the part where the priest meets him in the park, like
yeah,
along the river.
the priest calls him again, meets him at the park, and lays out everything, and basically says like, "Hey, bad news, bro. Your son's the son of the devil. We forgot to mention that. And he's going to bring about the apocalypse. And here's a little poem I wrote about it. And here's how it's going to happen when the Jews return to Zion and the comet shit happens, and then your son is the son of the devil." So
I got bad news. It's not looking good. I mean, his mom was an actual dog, like a real dog, like a real
right.
bitch.
Real dog face on this bitch.
Actual real dog face, like real
On this actual bitch.
on this actual bitch.
So I think even then he was like, what the fuck? And he leaves
He's
He says,
like,
"Just
get out.
please
He goes,
never."
get out of here. I don't want to see you ever again, guy. And
Yeah,
as the priest is leaving, this storm starts whipping up, and there's just all this. This is one of the most iconic
yeah,
scenes in all of horror for me, because it's like it just feels so supernatural. This just a storm out of nowhere that's just wind and lightning, and he's running up to the church doors, and he's banging on the doors, and as he looks up, lightning hits the the church steeple with the long pointy, lightning rod, and it comes toppling down, and it impales him in like this pose of just kind
yeah,
of almost like martyrdom kind of. It's very crazy.
yeah. In impales him into the ground. Like
Yeah.
they're not fucking around with it at all. But this whole moment has been foreshadowed by this photographer. This photographer has taken several shots of this priest, and there's like this shadow, like shaft that's
Yeah.
pointing right at the priest, and it literally comes to happen that he's impaled by this spear.
Yeah,
Uh,
the photographer who whose intentions have been seemingly kind of nefarious in terms of
mhm.
his relationship with Gregory Peck, aka the ambassador. He's like trying to get something. You can tell he's trying to get something on the ambassador, because the ambassador breaks his camera, and he's like, "What do I owe you?" Like, "Let me pay. Really, I am sorry for
Right,
breaking your
right.
camera." And he's like, "Let's just say you owe me one." And so you're kind of like in the back of your head, you're like, this photographer just wants something, he's got something out for Gregory Peck. But then the photographer approaches Peck and is like, "Hey man, I got to share with you these pictures I've been taking. They got some foreboding shit going on in them. Remember that that priest who got impaled? Well, check out this picture I took of him a day before he got impaled." And it shows, yeah, like you said, like
Mhm,
this shaft, this dark shaft going through him, like an aberration
mhm.
of the photo paper or something like that. And he's like, "I've been taking pictures of a lot of people who died before they died. And as it turns out, it's got this weird shit going through all of them in the same way that they die." And so now this kind of unlikely team of the photographer and the ambassador, Peck and the photographer, are kind of born. And they head to,
Yeah.
like, where? The Holy Land or something like that?
I thought it was Rome
Yes, Rome. There you go.
or just Italy. They were around. Well, no, and then they went to Megiddo. So that's in
Isn't that Greece or something?
Palestine or something.
Oh, shit. The Holy Land.
Uh, where is Megiddo?
Megiddo. Megiddo.
Oh, it's in Israel.
There you go. See?
Or yeah, I don't know. Where is it?
I spelled it wrong. Anyway, well, it's somewhere important.
Mm-hmm.
And, you don't rely on horror movie talk for facts. This is just entertainment value. They head there, and everybody gets, does the photographer die in Megiddo?
He dies
Because I know,
somewhere.
Gregory Peck gets his arm skewered on that
Well, I
fence.
think yeah, that happens in Italy. Like they go to the graveyard in Italy and
That's
they
right.
find the dog and his son, and that's where he gets impaled by this fence. They're attacked by these Rottweilers. There,
Jackals.
I guess Satan's a real fan of Rottweilers. Like he only uses 100% purebred Rottweilers as his servants.
I've been bit
Um,
by a decent amount of dogs, and I'd say 30 or 40% of those dogs have been Rottweilers. Like,
really,
oh yeah. Yep.
every Rottweiler I've met has been the nicest dog.
Well, you didn't grow up in the sticks walking on country
Mm,
roads
yeah,
when,
I guess
man,
not.
they on the butt, like every time, just on your butt, like, like, ow, my bottom.
The bee bit my bottom. Now my bottom's big.
Yeah, now my bottom's big. Yeah.
Um, Yeah, and then they make it over to, I don't know. Yeah, sure. Let's call it the Holy Land, wherever they are, and then the photographer gets his head chopped off, which is one of the most gratuitous but kind of hilarious, like, decapitations
The
in
good old
horror.
quintuple shot.
Yeah.
Every angle. His head
And I
comes off
read
this way and that way and this way and that way.
I read in the trivia that Richard Donner specifically slowed it down to where, like, he was calculating they're gonna see the metal sheet coming off and they're gonna close their eyes, like, to miss it, and then once they open their eyes, I want them to still see the decapitation, like, still, like, the head rolling.
It's like,
So
fuck you from this angle, fuck you over here too.
Oh, we skipped over another iconic scene, which is Damien with his squeaky wheel trike shoving his mother over the balcony.
Yeah.
That's like probably for me the iconic scene of the movie.
What the fuck was she doing hanging up those pots in the middle of the hallway on the second floor? These hanging basket plants just out in the middle of fucking nowhere. Like, what was she?
Where else are you going to put hall pots, David?
Hall pots.
You need a hall. You need to hang up the hall pots, or else. Yeah, and she's like the most precarious position. Like, there should be a horror movie just dedicated to ladders. The most dangerous tool in everyone's arsenal. Like, more people have died or been maimed by using a ladder, and this lady just uses some side table from IKEA. Like, just assume everything's going to be great. Plus, if you have enough money to hire a nanny, like, why are you hanging up pots?
Dude, you got to do something. You're going to get so fucking bored doing hiring all the things to do out. Like,
it's like, this kid is really, really cutting into my pot hanging time. Like, I need to hire someone to help me.
My one true passion. Hanging pots on the second floor in the middle of the hallway.
As long as it's precarious. Yeah, and then this, like, it shows the nanny, like, kind of, I don't know, it's almost like having a mind meld with Damien and, like, getting him real worked up and triking around on this trike. And then she unleashes him on his mom. And his mom is, like, clinging on to the banister. And it's the most unfriendly grip. It's like, it looks like the banisters are made out of like butt plugs, to where, like, the top is fine and then it tapers and you're like,
it's just like shaped just like my dick.
Yeah.
It's like you get towards the base and it's just unruly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's a great scene. And Damien is just shown, like, just kind of standing aside and being like,
he's like, yeah, I can't wait to get rid of this dick.
So his mother's in the hospital, and then eventually, like, despite, I keep having to look at despite Robert's warnings, like, she's murdered by the nanny before she can escape. There was one line in this movie that, like, my grammar Nazi self was like, hey, wait a minute. That's not right. I think it's one of the priests or someone describes the nanny as a servant of the devil, and she's an apostate of hell. And I'm like, if you're an apostate, isn't that you're against it, that you left it? Like,
I ain't for it, I'm again it. Yeah.
If I'm an apostate of the church, that means
you left the church.
I left the church and I'm working against it.
Right.
If you're an apostate of hell, doesn't that mean you're a good person?
Yeah, maybe they meant
that would have been great if they were like, your nanny is an apostate of hell, and Gregory Peck was like, oh, good.
Oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. Maybe they meant to say an apostle.
Oh.
Maybe
I just heard it wrong. Now that you say that, I wonder if I heard it wrong. And then, like, Thorne is given basically this ultimatum of, like, hey, if you'd want to save the entire world from utter destruction and calamity, you kind of have to kill your child. So here's some knives. Here's how you do it. You stab them with this one, and then you go in concentric circles around it and make the sign of the cross. And Thorne's like, yeah, I guess this
Okay.
is what I got to do. And then a minute later, he's like, yeah, I don't really
I don't love
want
it. I don't
to
love
kill
the
my
idea.
child.
So I want to point something out that has nothing to do with anything other than a word that you just said, since we're splitting hairs here. There's a lot of words used to describe, the end of times, right? Or like the worst possible situation. You got destruction and obliteration and just all these huge, amazing, terrible words. And then there's this like kind of fun, goofy one that's calamity. Doesn't calamity just kind of feel just kind of like it's a hoot and holler, like just feels like a real cowboy kind of word to me. I
Like
guess,
Calamity Jane, you mean?
yeah, I guess it's probably because of Calamity Jane. But it doesn't fit. But either way, you know how destruction sounds amazing and like desolation sounds like so fucking. But then
Yeah.
there's calamity.
Yeah.
It just doesn't have
Calamity
that.
just sounds like you just fell down a flight of stairs. You're like, oh no.
Oh, calamity is occurring. It just doesn't feel right.
Calamity is an event causing great and often sudden damage or distress, a disaster. So
Disaster sounds disastrous. Calamity just sounds calamitous. I'm sorry. I'll stop.
All right.
So Thorne he doesn't want to kill the child, but he knows he's kind of got to. But like, there's kind of
he
like
finds
this,
out his wife died too. Like he realizes the stakes because like
and he's like,
it's also
consarn it. That
yeah.
does it.
I'm tired of this calamity happening to my family. He hears about the omen really is that he's warned that his whole family is going to get murdered, like his wife and him and his unborn baby, to serve Damien. And so like really not just saving the world, but saving himself. And he's witnessed the death of his wife. And that's kind of the turning point where he's like, oh fuck, I guess I got to do this or else I'm going to die next and everyone else that I love. So he returns to the home and then he's like really thinking about it and he commits to do it and is he holding down the kid yet? No, I think that comes later, but the nanny attacks him and there's like a pretty extended scene where it's like the nanny's attacking him, Damien's attacking him, like they're all fighting
The dogs.
the dogs. And then finally it gets to the point where he's going to murder Damien and Damien just goes, please daddy, no. Which is the one like moment where
The
he's
most
like,
effective.
oh, this is a child. This is actually a child. It's going to be pretty rough to murder one, but then the cops break in and shoot.
Once you get over the hump of one, then they're easy after that. You do got to get over that first hump.
First one's always the hardest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Robert gets shot by the police. I mean, what else would you expect, right?
Yeah.
And then we're shown Damien basically being taken and adopted. It's kind of implied that he's adopted by the president's family. And I think in the next movie it's not the president that adopted him, but someone. But yeah, it's basically like Damien gets away with it, and that's where the dread is. And apparently the original ending was Robert was gonna actually kill Damien. He was gonna murder him. And then the censors were like, no, that's too dark. And then so they decided to make it so, the apocalypse would happen instead.
Wow, the censors actually coming in clutch for once and making a
Right.
sequel possible. Who would have
Right.
thought? Um, how did this end scene work for you? Like, I ask because all the scrambling with the dog and the nanny, it just felt so like I kind of hate it when movies do this, when they like turn the end of a movie into like a mad scramble kind of
Mm.
thing. It just feels like kind of anticlimactic. Like it's saved quite a bit by Damien being like, "Daddy, no," like that part is pretty cool. But like, I don't know, the mad scramble kind of thing. Whenever it's like, oh, there's one knife and two people like trying to get it, or like all that kind of stuff, just feels too actiony for me, and it just throws me out of the creepiness of the thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a cliche, but it's effective. I mean, it's a good finale to the movie, just having just chaos, and like having your plans completely destroyed by an insane person trying to kill you at the same time you're trying to kill someone else.
I mean, the thing that I'm left wanting is like all this fucking calamity that's promised throughout the movie of like the world's gonna end because of this kid. Like, I want to see what that looks like, like, don't you kind of want to see it? And you know what movie gives you that is Cabin in the Woods. Spoilers. Spoilers for Cabin in the Woods. But I want to see that,
Well, see, the thing is, it's implied that it's not going to happen for a while. It's like the kid is going to grow up to be the Antichrist.
I
Like right
get it.
now, he's
I'm
just a
just
baby.
saying, I just got a wish list,
Well, good news. There's like 3 more sequels to it. One starring Sam Neill, I believe, is the grown-up Damien.
Sam Neill. Oh shit, from Jurassic Park and
Yeah.
no shit. Really?
Yeah, the final conflict, the last chapter in the Omen trilogy.
The
And
final
it's yeah, Sam Neill plays Damien, grown up, and I think he's a yeah, he's also like an ambassador or something. He's a man of power. So, anyways, who would like The Omen?
Oh man, I mean this is a classic horror movie. Like you said, I think there is an easy case to be made for this being the direct sequel to Rosemary's Baby. If you just cut out a few scenes in this movie and that movie, boom, this is the direct sequel to Rosemary's Baby. And it sits in that. It actually, to me, The Omen does, like you said, sit in a very similar place to The Exorcist. I think if possession, demon, devil, calamity stuff works for you, this is right in your
Calamity.
wheelhouse. Yeah.
Pew, 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 pew.
Oh.
Yeah, I think the answer's simple. Parents. If you're a parent of a child, like this is kind of a must-see horror movie for you. Especially if you've gone through the toddler phase.
True.
All right, next up we got a new bit. This is more of a freeform thing, not really a game or anything, but The Omen is one of these movies that's associated with being cursed,
Mhm.
and it's basically become a marketing gimmick.
Right.
But was especially effective back then because it was used to great effect in The Exorcist. They also really used it in Poltergeist for marketing. Supposedly, like, so that's the question: is like, do we believe this or not? Like,
Okay.
how much evidence is there for an Omen curse, other than the first 2 attempts we had at making this episode? So here's some of the things outlined as the results of the Omen curse.
Okay. I'm down.
So this is straight from IMDb. I'm just going to read off some of this stuff. So the film seemed to fall victim to a sinister curse. Star Gregory Peck and screenwriter David Seltzer took separate planes to the UK, yet both planes were struck by lightning.
Okay.
While
Sounds like
producer
a minor inconvenience.
while producer Harvey Bernhard was in Rome, lightning just missed him. So okay, let's talk over these three. So question number 1 would be, did Gregory Peck and David Seltzer take separate planes at the same time through the same storm? In which case, yeah, would it be that unlikely to get hit
Why
by
would they
a
have done
storm?
that? Why would, like, what would be just to stay away from each other? Just to have, like,
Well, for insurance purposes, if one plane that goes down, at least you still have your producer
wow,
or your
you came up with the only reason why that might be a thing. Bravo.
But then the one where it's the producer almost got hit by lightning. It's like,
I mean, that's pretty
how
incredible.
close was it?
I would
Like, are
think
we
that
talking about within a mile, or like across the street, or literally like feet away?
if you're going to mention it in this manner, the implication is that it was within sight and and within close sight. Like, we're within a football field at least. Probably
Right.
more like a basketball court.
Yeah, but even then, if it was a basketball court away, I wouldn't say it just missed me. Be
Are
like,
you
whoa,
fucking joking? If lightning
No.
struck a basketball court away from you, you'd be like,
Uh-huh.
it wasn't that close.
It was close, but I wouldn't. There's a difference between saying, like, I witnessed a lightning strike super close. Like, I was so close to the lightning that it almost blew my ears out. It was only like a basketball court away. That would be very impressive. But it'd be another thing to say, a lightning bolt just missed me. Like, that denotes like a step away,
That is so insane that you're drawing that you have this fucking line in the sand that makes no sense to me. This is absurd. It just missed me. Think
So if
about
someone
how
threw a baseball at me but missed me by a basketball court, I'd be like, whoa, just missed me.
baseball being thrown at you is extremely different. Like, it's contextually different
Uh-huh.
than
I don't see it.
the likelihood of a lightning strike landing very, very close to you is infinitesimally small compared to someone intentionally throwing a baseball at you. Like, you're talking about God missing you with a baseball versus Roger missing you with a baseball. It's very, very, very different. Like,
Yeah, it doesn't. See, it just missed means that it was like it would have hit you, except for you were standing next to a tree or something.
well, in that case, I've been just missed by a lightning strike. I was sitting in a car eating my lunch with a guy. He's actually, weirdly enough, his name was Bryce. When I was working for the Forest Service, and we were probably about maybe somewhere between 25 and 50 yards away from a tree, a big dead tree. And it was the only, we were in a clear cut. So it was like the only tree around. We were safe from it because we were in a car, but it struck the tree, and and it was so crazy to see it because it blew all the bark off this dead tree. It just, bark came raining down on us. And I remember seeing the lightning bolt spiral down the trunk. And I can still drive to that tree now and still look at, and this was maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago. Still look at the path that the lightning bolt took down the trunk of this tree.
Interesting. Okay. Another factoid: Rottweilers hired for the film attacked their trainers.
Oh,
This one is
that upsets me. I don't like it.
A hotel in which the director stayed was bombed by the IRA.
What the fuck?
And he was also struck by a car. Richard Darling was struck by a car.
Ah, shit.
So dogs attacking trainers, like that's probably. I mean, I take all these with a grain of salt. What do you mean by attacked? Like, and how? Yeah, I could see that happening.
You are so stingy in your willingness to give it to other people when, I mean, all we had were some minor technical difficulties yesterday, and you're like, I don't know, curse of the omen. See, when it applies to you, it's from a fucking way different standard. Dude gets attacked by a dog, and you're like, I don't know, IRA bombing. You know,
Do you think I actually believe that we're being cursed by the omen?
I don't know. You said it, so I mean, by your standards of this taking things very literally, yeah, you must.
No, I'm not taking it literally. I'm taking it as a skeptic. I was being ironic when I said we're being cursed. Like, I don't think it was actually related to the omen.
I don't think anybody who has ever given us a bad review would understand anything you just said.
This one is actually kind of impressive. After Gregory Peck canceled another flight to Israel, the plane he would have chartered crashed, killing
Damn.
all on board.
Sounds like it's the reverse of cursed. Sounds like it's
Right.
blessed.
Yeah.
Hashtag
I mean,
blessed.
at once, that's like the most impressive factoid that they've shared yet, but also exactly like you said, that's the opposite of being cursed.
Yeah.
On day one of the shoot, several principal members of the crew survived a head-on car crash.
Was the car crashing into their head, or were they like in the car?
They just got in a car crash. So basically, if you have bad drivers in your crew, you're cursed. Gotcha. And then this one is the most laughable to me. Is the jinx appeared to persist well into post-production, because when special effects artist John Richardson was injured and his girlfriend beheaded in an accident on the set of A Bridge Too Far.
Damn, what?
So someone associated with the special effects artist was working on a different film, and he was injured and his girlfriend was beheaded.
Oh. So, that got a lot less.
So wouldn't that mean A Bridge Too Far is cursed? Why would that be? Like, how long is the what's it called?
Bad things happen. Oh, you mean I can't think of the fucking turn of phrase either.
The legal term. What am I looking for?
Yeah.
The statute of limitations. What's the statute of limitations for a cursed production?
Yeah.
Like,
when does that end?
Just until the end of your next film.
But not only that, it can just be
anything that happens to the hundreds of people associated loosely with this film in the next 20 years will mean it's cursed. That's the same thing with Poltergeist. It's like some of them died later.
You know, Alfred Hitchcock, who made films much like this film that you are watching, died approximately 7.5 years after this was shot.
Wow. Yeah. It's cursed.
It's true. Part of the curse. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, there's a couple more, but nothing as interesting as those. So I don't know. What do you think? Would you say like, oh, this is
in
a
terms
cursed
of
film? In
terms of like curses, and how curses go, it definitely sounds like this was. I don't know if I go so far as to say cursed, maybe bemoaned, or beleaguered by
yes,
by calamity.
Yeah,
ominous calamity. Yeah. Oh no, he's causing calamity. Oh, he says calamitous intent.
Yeah, we should have scales for curses. Just be like, this was actually cursed versus like, yeah, this is just a beleaguered film. Like,
right.
They came out pretty haggard after it, but otherwise unharmed.
Yeah. I mean, there was a guy who was loosely associated with another guy who was associated with this film who was decapitated.
Right.
Several years after this finished. So,
right.
Do you really hold the reins on? Do you get to decide? No. They had to live through this, Bryce.
It's true. They had to live through the curse.
Well,
It's true.
it's true.
So thanks for listening and or watching, however you're consuming horror movie talk. Please share the show with a friend. If this is showing in October, like definitely reach out to people watching spooky movies for the season and let them know there's a cool podcast that they can listen to as well. Go to our website, horrormovietalk.com. There you'll find all different ways to support us and contact us. Special thanks to all our patrons, all our new patrons. And if you want to leave us a voicemail, call 682-253-4468. Until next time, boys and girls.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. We love you. Bye.
Hello and welcome to Horror Movie Talk.
An opinionated and accidentally funny horror movie review show. Go, 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 go.
I just had to stroll through the scraggly woods.
He had no face! Horror! Sabrina, don't just stare at it, eat it.
New theatrical releases always get priority.
But we also review older horror movies, both good and horrible.
Wow, that didn't sound good.